Greetings, friends. I want to read you a passage from this week's Torah portion. Remember, do not forget that you provoked Hashem, your God, in the wilderness from the day you left the land of Egypt until arrival at this place. And Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, is now standing at the eastern bank of the Jordan River. And the passage continues, you have been rebels against Hashem. And in Horeb, which is Mount Sinai, you provoked Hashem. That's the end of the quote. As Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, stands on the east bank of the Yarden River, Moshe Rabbeinu testifies to the rebellions which have occurred during the previous 40 years in the desert. How could Am Yisrael do this? After seeing earth-shaking miracles, the 10 plagues, the liberation from the iron crucible of Egypt, the splitting of the sea, the drowning of our enemies, receiving the Torah directly from Hashem, traveling through the wilderness in which Hashem miraculously supplied with food and water, and providing Moshe and Aaron to lead them through this wild world to safety. How could they rebel? It's incomprehensible. Or is it? Maseh Avos Siman Labanim, the famous phrase, the actions of the fathers are a sign for the children. And these were our fathers, our forefathers, the generation of the desert. We had better look inside ourselves to try to understand this phenomenon that we see in this week's Parsha. And I'm going to start with myself. The Yetzer Hara, the evil inclinations, constantly testing us. We can never overcome the Yetzer Hara on our own, but Hashem, in his kindness, has given us the Torah, and it says, I have created the Yetzer Hara, and I have created the Torah, Tavlin, as a spice. Tavlin means spice. Why does the Torah use the term spice when it refers to the way in which the Torah can liberate us from the Yetzer Hara? Why doesn't it just say the Torah can destroy the Yetzer Hara? This is so profound, my friends. Let's contemplate the words of the Chazon Ish in a letter to one of his students, and I quote, "Strengthen yourself, my dear one. Strengthen yourself and envelop yourself with the fortitude to engross yourself in the Torah. For it is for that purpose that you were created. With just a little more effort, you will be able to come to grips with your evil inclination. Then his defeat will be total and he will no longer bother you. Just overcome him today and he will be your faithful servant for all time." Apparently, we do not want to eliminate the Yetzer Hara. Apparently, we want to make this incredibly powerful force our servant instead of us, we being his servant. And how do we accomplish this? What is the recipe? The recipe is immersion in Torah, the spice, the tavlin, through which life becomes delicious instead of torturous. Do we not beg Hashem every day in our prayers, compel our evil inclination to be subservient to you? Life is torture for most people. They do not admit it, so they cover it up with keeping busy, earning a livelihood, empty entertainment, vacations, or in more extreme cases, drugs or other addictions. People do not allow themselves to think. If people would think, they would realize the emptiness of their lives. As it says in Koheles, for most of their deeds are desolate, and the days of their lives are empty. The preeminence of man over beast is non-existent, for all is vain. That's a quote from Koheles, the book of Ecclesiastes. The culture of Edom, which dominates life on this planet, is devoid of meaning. This is why almost no one thinks at all. If people would think, they might go crazy. And now, when the Western world is reaching the zenith of emptiness, it is increasingly obvious that this vast house of cards is beginning to collapse. Chaos is increasing around the world. The house of cards is falling. The only house which stands forever, lahavdil, is the house of Torah. Before the incident with the golden calf, the Yetzer Hara showed Am Yisrael, the children of Israel, a vision of Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, being taken to heaven. In their panic, they started worshiping an idol. The nation that had just met Hashem at Har Sinai is worshiping an idol? When the Meraglim, the spies, returned with their Lashon Hara against the land of Israel, the people panicked. They lost their seichel, they lost their senses, and they said, quote, "We will never be able to conquer these giants and live in the land that Hashem promised to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov." When a person panics, he becomes a slave to his emotions. He's captured by the Yetzer Hara. Thus, the Torah tells us not to go achrei levavchem, be achrei einechem, after your heart and after your eyes, after which you stray. If we panic, if we let panic grab us, God forbid, the results remain. They were in front of our eyes over 3,000 years later. Tisha B'Av, the Beis HaMikdash burning, expulsion, gullus, worldwide hatred, sickness, sinas chinam, tragedy on every level. Have you ever had a panic attack? You're enveloped by fear. It makes no sense, but it takes over. You are helpless. You think there's nothing which can save you. Your life is exploding. Try to say a bracha or Torah or study Torah when you are like this. You cannot do it. You cannot concentrate. You're in another world. You are lost. This is what happened to Am Yisrael in the Midbar, in the desert. It was a national panic attack. They lost all connection to reality. Torah is our only anchor. It's connected securely and unbreakably to Hashem, a rope which cannot be severed. This is a quote from Tehillim, from Psalms. Indeed, the world is fixed so that it cannot falter. When you grab onto Torah, you are saved, but you have to grab and hold. My current book, entitled Hold On, Surviving the Days Before Mashiach, is exactly about this. My friends, we have to hold on. That's all we need. I don't say it's easy, but it's simple, direct, clear, and action, holding on, which leads to survival. That's what it's all about, survival. My friends, may we see the arrival of Mashiach ben David and the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash and this holy city of Yerushalayim soon in our days.